So good afternoon. The good news is we're in a really cool room. It's physically cool and just cool. The bad news is I'm what's standing between you and the Mint and happy hour. So I hope to make it interesting. I hope that this is going to be helpful and useful to you, and you probably not nod off from the heat. That's my goal. So I thought I'd start and just tell you a little bit about me and how I ended up here on this stage today. I have a background in marketing and communications. I spent 22 years at FedEx, where I literally learned enough to write a book about crisis communications, because FedEx flies planes every day and drives vehicles every day, and there's always an opportunity to use that skill set. So I learned a lot there, and when I left FedEx, I started my own firm to do communications consulting. And I got a call from the University of Memphis, and they said, we need some help in the crisis communications area. It's an area that we don't feel like we have enough expertise in. Would you come talk to us? So I said, sure. And I came out of that session with a job description that I didn't ask for, but I'm so very grateful that they offered. And a year later, I stand before you, a newbie in higher ed, but not in crisis communications. And it's an interesting time to be in higher ed, don't you think? So from a personal perspective, it's interesting for me because I have a rising senior in high school and a rising junior in high school. So I am a consumer and a marketer. So it's very interesting for me personally. But from a professional level, it's pretty unprecedented what we are all going through in higher education on a daily basis. So I hope that what I share with you today, some of the things that we use at the University of Memphis, will be helpful to you as you go back to your universities and your jobs. So what I think about for AI, and I got permission this morning to not be an AI expert, because none of us are. Look, the truth is this, we're all figuring this out as we go. But what I'll tell you, and many of you are probably in that same age range I am, we've seen things that people thought were going to just be fads change the way we operate. The internet, social media. Remember, it was just going to be a thing for college kids. And now it's changed how we communicate, how we advertise, how we reach our audiences. COVID, we all lived through it. We actually all became experts in crisis communications through COVID. You learn to adapt on the fly. You learn not to believe everything that you hear. You learn to think for yourself and figure it out for what works for you. And that's really what crisis communications is all about. So everyone's doing it. You're doing it. Your university is doing it. You're doing it in your life because AI has been rampant among us for many years, as you saw earlier today. But if you have a chatbot on your website, you're using AI. If you're doing data analytics, you're using AI. If you're doing any kind of monitoring for your social media or your earned media, you're using AI. You're using it for all of those things. SEO, all part of it. It helps you do things faster, but it also helps you spot the things that aren't real. And these things that you can now, whether you realize it or not, you're looking at your phone going, oh my gosh, that's fake. That's not real. You know the difference because we've learned through AI that's helped us spot what's real and what isn't. And then the most important thing is that humans still very much matter, and especially when it comes to crisis communications, because you cannot replace empathy, maybe yet, it may be coming, but today you cannot replace empathy. You also have to be able to do things like listen for the brand voice for your institution. Those are things that you can't do with AI. So let's talk about how we can use it to help us work smarter, not harder. So there are several rules that I talk about in crisis communications. And the first one is avoid it at all costs. No one wants a crisis. But look, let's be real. It's going to happen. We're going to have a crisis at some point. And it is the great neutralizer, the great equalizer. It doesn't matter your title. It doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. A crisis is a crisis is a crisis. And so when you get into that mode, there are things that you can use that help you through that moment. And the first is being able to use this data platforms that are available to you. Many of you have them at the University of Memphis. We use Sprout Social, we use Muck Rack. We're always looking at our Google Analytics. Utilize the tools that you have. Or get a tool if you don't have it. And you gotta decide if you're gonna buy that or you're gonna try to do that on your own. And I would say if you do a cost-benefit analysis, you'll probably find out that it makes sense to purchase some level of monitoring software for your university. It gives you predictive insights, and it also helps you gauge sentiment. So the real-time scans that it can provide you, I'll give you an example of how it helped us at the University of Memphis. We found through our scanning of social media that there was going to be a student demonstration. Did anybody else go, oh my gosh, no? Okay. So we found there was going to be one, which really is great. It's fine. It's free speech. We want that. But in the environment that we all live in, some red flags went up. So we took it as an opportunity to reach out to the student organization so that they would know what's expected of them and that we would know what's expected of us. We had a great conversation. It turned out to be no big deal. It was on a very hot topic that could have gone a different way. So being able to know that in advance, because not all student organizations, they don't necessarily advertise, and they certainly don't have to tell you what they're doing. We were able to find that through our scanning of social media. So it's important to have it so that you can avoid it when at all costs. But if you can't avoid it, the next rule is do no harm. Don't make it worse. So ways that you can utilize AI to help you do that and help you do it quickly is to research. So I live my life with this mantra, plan the work and work the plan. And that was taught to me early in my career at FedEx. There was always a crisis plan. We would test it, we would use it, we would do drills, we would do tabletop simulations. It was a thing. It's not that way everywhere, but that's how I grew up, learning that that was important. And so that's more important now than ever. So you have to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, use AI to help you build one. It won't take you very long, then customize it for yourself. If you take nothing else away, take that. But research is important. Using AI helps my whole team research faster. What's going on out there? Is someone talking about this already? Have we already gotten into the media before we were ready? It makes it easier for you to do that first line of defense. And the good news is that AI is sourced, so you can check the sources. But the second point is don't believe everything you read and check the sources. So what was said earlier, you can't just lift and shift data without checking the source of your data, because garbage in and garbage out just gives you garbage. So you have to make sure that the information that you're getting is sourced. And I'm going to give you a real-life example of how a cautionary tale, I shall say, in just a moment, that happened at the university. And then the last is just make sure you know the facts before you go out and publish anything. Make sure the names are right. Make sure they're spelled correctly. Make sure that you have the information that you need. And I could spend an entire 30 minutes giving you examples of things gone wrong, but we'll do that over happy hour at the Mint. Here's my cautionary tale. So I blurred the things you shouldn't see in public. But this is an original script that was written by the university. We went through AI to have it recorded. We tested it, and then how it actually worked. So let me just read to you the highlighted area in the original script. Meet essential University of Memphis faculty, get early access to admissions information, and even tour the campus's hottest spots. When it was tested, it said something like this. Meet essential University of Memphis faculty, get early access to admissions information, and even to the campus is hotspot. Okay, yeah, no big deal. You can fix that. Here's what came out in social media from a parent who did a screen capture of their transcribed voicemail that came from the University of Memphis. Meet essential University of Memphis faculty. get early access to admissions information, and even to the campus is hot as F. That is not what we wrote in the original scripts. That is not how it tested. But that is how this woman received it, and her response was, "This was the voicemail I got from your school, inviting my daughter to tour campus. Not sure it's the best way to gain students. Interesting way to reach out to parents." So the good news is we monitor social media. And we found that, and we were able to rectify the situation, but not before it happened, or not before it got posted. So AI, cautionary tale, it is absolutely wonderful, but you need humans to make sure that it works the way you want it to. More examples of how AI can help you in a crisis. I am a big proponent of being transparent in a crisis. You need to be able to tell as much as you can tell, but you don't have to spill the tea, as my daughter calls it. Not all of it. If you say everything you know, it's not necessarily helpful. And the example is this. We have a few executive orders that came out from the president that impact higher education. They change, I wouldn't even say day by day, sometimes hour by hour. Because the minute it comes out, then an injunction comes in stopping it, and then that gets lifted, but oh wait, there's 4 more. My point is this, when it first started happening, we are a public institution, and we felt obligated to talk about what was happening to our faculty and staff and students. So we went through the exercise of drafting what it was we wanted to say. By the time we got ready to send it, it was already outdated twofold. So that's when we realized sometimes don't talk. Because the minute we would send something out, it would be outdated or inaccurate, and then we'd have to go correct that, and then we'd have to update it. So we had to find a different way to tell that story. So just because you know it doesn't necessarily mean you have to say it. The other thing AI can help you do is to see how it's going. I heard earlier in a session about message testing and how AI can help you really poke holes at a message to see if the way you intended it to be received might actually be received that way. So that's definitely a place where we have been able to use AI to go, do we think this is going to work or not? And that helps you also say the right things at the right time to the right people. Knowing your audience is important, and understanding what they want to hear and how they want to hear it is also important. And AI can help you draft those quickly in real time. Things are flying at you 1,000 miles a second when you're in the middle of a crisis. So utilizing the tools to help you make better, faster decisions is really where AI comes into play. And the other part that's important is you don't go, all you want to do at the end of a crisis is get away from it. You just want to get away from it because it was hard and But that post-analysis is so critical. Because what's going to happen is you're going to get away from it and you're going to forget. And you're going to forget the things that you learned, the important things that you would want to make sure you do differently next time. So that post-analysis is really important time-wise, but then also you can use AI tools to help you gather. I mean, think about an organization as large as FedEx. You have to sweep widely to see what the sentiment really was. So AI tools help you do that, help you do them efficiently, and help you do your job smarter, not harder. And then practice makes permanent. I want to share a story about a woman named Mrs. Love, who was my son's 4th grade math teacher. And this kid, who didn't care a thing about math, comes home one day, and math is my favorite subject. I love math. And I'm like, something has happened. What is this? So I go to the parent-teacher conferences, and I get a chance to meet Mrs. Love. And she told us that what she tells these boys in the 4th grade is not practice makes perfect, because you're not trying to be perfect. Practice makes permanent. And that is so true in our everyday life. It's true for everything we do, but she meant math because she says, I tutor kids who are taking the ACT, and everything I'm tutoring them on are things that they learned in the 4th grade. And I just have to remind them of the fundamentals that they learned. And the more you do it, the better you're going to be at that. I took it with me. I actually put it in the book that I just wrote. I just think that it's that important. Practice does not make perfect. I'm not striving for perfect. You're not perfect in a crisis. You wouldn't be there if it was perfect. You want it to be permanent. And that's why I always say, plan the work the plan, and practice. I'll tell you what I mean by that in just a moment. So I'm going to leave you with 3 tips. You might get out of here early and be able to go to the Mint early, but it's cooler here than it's going to be out there. So 3 things. Do your homework. Know what there is to offer in AI. Do not be scared of this. You cannot, look, I'm not your average bear. I say people who do crisis communications are not normal. They aren't running from a fire. We're running to it because we want to help. We're going to make it better. And if the fire's out, we're going to look for another one. And God forbid we can't find one because we just might start it. But the crisis communications person in me is saying, I have to understand AI. I have to know how to use it. I have to be able to use it for my job, but I also have to teach my team how to be smart users of AI. And as a leader, that is my responsibility. And as a leader in a higher education institution, we have to embrace this because it's not going away. Neither did the internet, and neither did social media. So let's be smart about it. Let's get in there, let's practice, let's get it wrong, let's try again, and let's keep using it. The other thing I will give you as a cautionary tale that I have found is look before you buy. And we have this joke at my house, shop in your closet first. Mom, I need a pair of, well, you have a pair, go shop in your closet first. If we can't find it, then we'll talk about it. I heard this morning, and I never had a statistic, so thank you to Element 451, 90% of the tools that we have at our university are not fully utilized. So before you go and say, I need to go get, why don't you try to talk to the people who have something already and dig deeper? And I'm going to give you an example. I've been in this role a little over a year, and we were in need of a digital asset manager. As you can imagine, a school that was started in 1912 has a lot of assets, digital assets now and video assets, and how do we take care of all of those things? So we have Photo Shelter, where we would take photos, we would edit them, we would keep them there, it was great. The entire university knows how to go in and access it. But we needed a digital asset manager. So we went through all of we're a public research institution, so we have to go through a lot of things to get a new contract in place. We did all of it, looked at all of these different bids that had come in. And someone on my team said, well, let me just see what Photo Shelter can do for us. Turns out, it's a digital asset manager, and we already paid for most of it. And not only could it do what I needed it to do, it uses AI to help you search everything and deliver it up in a beautiful little way, and it can house your templates that people already wanted and needed and used, your brand guidelines, everything that we were looking for, we already had it. So shop in your own house first, then go and look. And then the last, again, is practice makes permanent. I am a big proponent of crisis simulations. We've actually done several since I've been at the University of Memphis, because you think you know what you know, and you think you know what you'll do in a crisis. Having been through multiple, that's an understatement. You don't, because everyone's different. Every single one is different, and nothing is repeatable. But the things that you learn from the crisis or the simulation of the crisis, because you learn the same things, maybe quite not so emotionally, but you learn the same things, you can get AI to help you with. AI can come up with a scenario for you. AI can change the scenario for you and throw a curveball at you so you can say, oh, what would I do if this happened? It can also give you the opportunity in a scenario plan to test what you think you would use at AI and see if it works. Because if it doesn't, don't use it. Don't. If it works, do more of it. And so that's why I say practice makes permanent, and I talk a lot about it. I wanted just to share a little bit about what the university is doing in the area of AI. I won't go through each of these, but there are a few that I think are important. And most universities are doing some of these things already, but I do think it's important that you kind of aggregate that. I'm a storyteller. So I like aggregating information and sharing it. And part of the hesitation with AI is just a fear of it. So the more you talk about it, and the more you talk about what your university is doing in this area, the easier it's going to be for people to get on board. And so there's a couple here that I wanted to talk about. The University of Memphis did the first AI GPU cluster in the state, and it was done through a $1 million grant that we got through the National Science Foundation. And it's just a great opportunity for people to get together and use it and learn about it. The same holds true with this 901, which is our area code, 901 artificial intelligence. It's a community of people who want to get together and talk about the same thing we're doing today, to get together, share ideas, share stories, share experiences, and learn that process as they go. And then we have a global AI partnership with a university out of Singapore. And what's interesting about this one is that it's not necessarily about educating students, which we are doing with our AI for All, which is accreditation you can have in any major that you get. It doesn't have to be specific to computer science or anything in the typical areas. But this partnership with Singapore is to teach corporations and businesses how to use AI. Because I think that it's here to stay, so we should all be embracing it. Another example on the AI research that we do is around supply chain, which makes a whole lot of sense because we share the same home as FedEx. And so there's a lot of partnership that goes on with FedEx regarding AI research, and how it can make that huge company be more efficient, faster, more reliable, all the things that you have come to expect from the FedEx brand. And last but not least, a shameless plug for the book that I told you that I could probably write because of my time at FedEx. So after I left FedEx, I started thinking about what I liked doing. I'm an accidental crisis communicator. I did not get out of bed in my teen age years and go, I'm going to major in this and this is what I'm going to do. But I found my way to it, and I love it, and I hate it, because who likes a crisis? But I learned so much about doing it when I was at FedEx, and started getting hired afterwards because of that experience, and then got new experiences on top of it. So I started thinking about purposeful work and what was important to me. And it seems a shame to know the things that I know and not be able to try to give it to my younger self. Because if I'd had this book when I first started in crisis comms, my life would have been a whole lot easier. So I tried to think about the lessons learned and the value that having that experience brought to me. And that's where this book came from. And it just was released on June 1st for pre-sale, and it comes out in September. And there's quite a bit in here about higher education, and just the stories that I didn't have time to tell you today, but if you find me in happy hour, I'll share a couple with you if you're interested. And that's what I wanted you to know, because the bottom line is this: a crisis is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I'll tell you the difference between brands that survive and those who don't. It's how prepared they are. Thank you. Do you want to do
Thank you, Michele Ehrhart. We have some time for questions. Would anyone like? I'm going to get that book, by the way. I think you all should get that book. Any questions from the audience?
Where's happy hour?
Where's every?
That's the question.
Any questions? Well, maybe you want to ask your questions one-on-one so we can close the session. Right. Michele, thank you very much once again. Fantastic
Thanks for having
session.
Me.